Okay, so Wolves lost their final pre-season game to Celta Vigo today in a result that if before the game you told me that, I would have been a bit concerned. But after watching the game, I'm not really that bothered. Um, when the lineup came out, I think a lot of people were a bit disappointed. I think people are looking at it and going, this isn't any better than last season. And I don't necessarily disagree with that. There's still things I don't really like about this lineup. Like, I'd rather Kilman on the left, just because he's the more inexperienced one. I'd rather have Ray Nuri on the left wing back. I'd rather have Dendoncker instead of Moutinho. But it was an okay lineup. And look, the first half was terrible. It was a very Nuno game actually. It had all the hallmarks of a Nuno game. Terrible first half, slow passing, um, no energy. John Moss moving mad as usual. Sace doing all these stupidness, and obviously it was a penalty from Roman Sace. That's where they got the only goal of the game from. I think the only positive for the first half was we did actually defend well. Obviously they scored, but it's a penalty, and Sace did actually have a really good game apart from the penalty and the red card. Which, let's be honest, it should have been a red card. It's an absolute disgrace he didn't send him off for that. I'd have been fuming if one of their players did that to us. Um, but it's one of those things where I don't think you can really read too much into it. I don't think Kilman can keep playing on the right. I think that was the biggest takeaway I got from the game. It's just unfair on him. Obviously, Jerson would be playing there. They're the right, or Willy Bolly, but so it's kind of mainly for injuries, right? But I'd rather just see Keanu Herver play there. Again, Semedo was out with COVID, so maybe that would happen in the future. But I hope that doesn't happen again. And look, old habits die hard, right? We're not going to get a new manager, and everything's going to change overnight. Things are going to change, and but I think we did learn things in the first half. There's so many times where Adama would come into this middle zone, and because Marcel doesn't overlap, he just kind of stays back. The opposition's left back, left central midfielder, and left centre back are all just on him, and he can't do anything. And Trincão's kind of just stuck out wide doing nothing, although he did have his best game today. Um, but second half, everything changed. I think the energy went up. Trincão, he had his most effective game in terms of end product and overall play. Um, John Moss was John Moss, man. John Moss. I don't know how John Moss is a referee. Then the Sace tackle happened quite early on. Again, should have been a red card. Absolute disgrace. I think Keanu Herver really improved. I really like Keanu Herver. I still think Semedo's a much superior fullback, but he's got that confidence. You can tell he's a very confident boy. He's used to playing in possession based teams at Liverpool and Ajax, and it's nice having a guy that can actually dribble the ball out the back because that's what Marcel can't do. I like Marcel, but I'd rather Ait Nuri play if I'm being totally honest with you. Jimenez hit the post. Probably should have scored, but I thought Raul Jimenez was probably our best player today. In that first half, he was the only guy that actually was doing something semi-productive. Well, Adama as well, I guess, but it was just if we play like we did in the second half against Celta Vigo, against Leicester, we'll be fine. I'm not saying we'll win, but we'll be competitive. There's no shame in losing to Leicester away. But if we play like we did in that first half, or leave it to the second half to come in, we're not winning. And the one positive about the game is Jones Sarr in the first half or John Ruddy in the second half literally didn't have a save to make, or at least not that I can remember. We did defend well. And people are saying the defence is rubbish, and maybe it is, but it was a bit higher up. And look, that long ball still does affect us, obviously, but I didn't really ever feel concerned by Celta Vigo in the whole game. And I don't mind sacrificing a bit up front for having a better defence until we buy a new centre-back. I think most Wolves fans would probably take that in the first few games. And obviously Ruben Neves was great today. Actually, I'll take that back about Raul Jimenez. Ruben Neves is the best player on the pitch today. I've been a bit critical of Ruben Neves. I don't think he's as good as some people make out. I think if Wolves sold him for like 50, 60 million, I'd have no complaints. But he's still by far our best midfielder. And as much as I think Dendoncker is limited, he's by far he just complements Neves better. It just works. It just feels a bit more natural, I like Moutinho. I think he's useful. He's good in certain games, especially when you're playing lower opposition. But Celta Vigo are a good side. They're better than we are in terms of league position in their own league. And that midfield is so key, man. It's so key. I did that video about what midfielders we should sign. that Kozlov's the only one we've really been linked with so far, which is obviously a bit worrying. But Wolves always do things, under the table, so to speak. But Catroni came on and did well as well. By the way, it's nice to see him do well. But I think the things you learn from this game are kind of things we already know. If the players do turn up, we are a decent side. But if they don't, we're boring and we're going to fall into old habits because these players are basically the same group that Nuno had for 4 years. And it just feels like the squad needs a little bit of a refresh. And I think, maybe Roman Sace and Catroni leaving and a centre mid and a centre back coming in, it probably solves that. I don't think Wolves are a hard team to fix. Get a central midfielder, get a centre back, kind of get some momentum back into the club, and I think we'll be absolutely fine. I have no worries about us finishing top 10, assuming we make one or two good signings and take some positives from that second half. Yeah, that's all I have to say about the game. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe to the channel, like the video, check out my Rafa Mir video I did earlier, subscribe. Yeah, peace.